In the complex machinery of railway operation, timing is everything. A locomotive that is ordered at the right moment, delivered when it is needed, integrated into operations that have been planned around its arrival, can serve its purpose and justify its existence. But a locomotive that is ordered at one moment and delivered at a different moment, when circumstances have changed, when the situation it was designed for has evolved, when the replacement it was meant to provide has already been dealt with through other means, can arrive into a world where it has no purpose, where it solves problems that no longer exist, where its presence is an embarrassment rather than a solution. The locomotive whose story this is was ordered by a railway company at a moment when the company was facing a specific operational crisis. A locomotive that had been the backbone of a particular service was aging, was approaching the end of its useful life, was beginning to fail with increasing frequency. The railway company needed a replacement. The company made the decision to order a new locomotive, a machine that would be capable of handling the service that the aging machine had been handling, that would be delivered in time to allow a smooth transition from the old machine to the new. The company placed the order with a locomotive manufacturer. The manufacturer accepted the order and began the detailed work of designing and building the locomotive specifically to the railroad's requirements. The build process took substantial time, as locomotive construction always did in that era. The design had to be finalized down to every detail. The parts had to be fabricated to precise specifications, sometimes requiring custom work that took months in itself. The assembly had to be done with extreme care, because a locomotive is not a simple machine that can be easily fixed if something is assembled incorrectly. The locomotive had to be tested exhaustively and debugged through actual operation to ensure that it would perform reliably before being delivered to the customer. The timeline that the manufacturer provided stretched into months, extended toward years. This was not considered unusual. Railway companies expected to wait for new equipment. The company understood that locomotive manufacturing was not a quick process, that the manufacturer had other orders to fill, that careful construction was worth the wait because the locomotive would need to operate reliably for decades. The company accepted the timeline, believed that the manufacturer's schedule was reasonable based on the complexity of the work, and committed itself to waiting for the locomotive to arrive, confident that when it finally did arrive, it would be exactly what the company needed. But circumstances changed while the locomotive was being built, changed in ways that nobody could have anticipated or controlled. The aging locomotive that the new machine was supposed to replace began to deteriorate faster than anyone's most pessimistic estimates had suggested. The locomotive that had been expected to continue operating reliably for another year or two, the locomotive that was supposed to provide a bridge between the present and the arrival of the new machine, began to fail in catastrophic ways. Critical components developed problems that could not be simply repaired or patched. The boiler developed leaks that made the locomotive unsafe to operate. The running gear accumulated damage that could not be economically restored. The locomotive could not be repaired economically because the cost of the necessary repairs approached or exceeded the cost of building a new locomotive. The locomotive could not be coaxed through another season of service because it had become genuinely dangerous to operate. The company faced a decision: keep operating an aging machine that might catastrophically fail at any moment, risking the safety of the crew and the public, or scrap the machine and face the operational crisis that scrapping would create. The company chose safety. The locomotive had to be scrapped. The railway company faced a sudden crisis. The new locomotive that had been on order was not yet ready. The old locomotive that the new machine was supposed to replace had already been scrapped. The company was without motive power for the service that the old locomotive had been providing. The company had to improvise. The company had to find other locomotives to handle the work. The company had to reorganize its operations to function without the specific machine that it had depended on. In the improvisation and the reorganization that followed the scrapping, the company found a way forward that nobody had expected would be possible. Other locomotives that had been assigned to different services were reassigned to cover the work that the scrapped locomotive had been handling. Services that had been operated separately were consolidated into combined schedules that fewer locomotives could handle. Routes were reconfigured to eliminate redundancy. Trains were rerouted through different portions of the network. The company discovered through this process something that challenged its original assumptions. It could continue operating without the aging locomotive, that the work that the machine had done could be distributed across other machines, that the specific service that the locomotive had provided could be handled differently than anyone had imagined. It was not ideal. The consolidated services were less frequent. The reconfigured routes were less direct. The reorganized operations required more coordination and more careful scheduling. It was not optimal by any measure that had been applied before the crisis, but it was functional. The reorganization allowed the company to continue operations while waiting for the new locomotive to arrive. The company had adapted to the absence of the machine it had depended on. In adapting, the company had discovered a new operational model that actually worked. When the new locomotive finally arrived, the locomotive that had been built to replace an aging machine that was already scrapped, the locomotive that had been designed to handle a service that had already been reorganized around the absence of that machine, the locomotive found itself in an awkward position. The railway company no longer needed the locomotive for the specific purpose that the locomotive had been built for. The company had adapted to the absence of the machine it was supposed to replace. The company had reorganized around the gap that the machine's retirement had created. The new locomotive was integrated into operations, but not in the way that had been planned by the company years earlier, when the order had been placed. The locomotive was not welcomed as the solution to a crisis that the company had been dreading. The locomotive was not celebrated as the machine that would restore the service that had been disrupted by the scrapping of the old locomotive. The locomotive was simply additional equipment that the company had to find a use for, additional power that the company had committed to owning and maintaining, but that was no longer necessary for the purpose that had originally justified the order. The locomotive that had been ordered with such specific purpose, that had been designed carefully to solve a particular problem, found itself instead being deployed to whatever service the company could find for it. The locomotive was used to cover peak traffic periods. The locomotive was used to operate secondary routes. The locomotive was used to provide backup power when other machines were in the shop for maintenance. The locomotive was used in ways that had nothing to do with the purpose for which it had been built, in ways that the original designers had never imagined, in ways that were practical but that violated the original intent of the order. What happened to the locomotive over the years that followed is the story of a machine that had been born into obsolescence before it even entered service. The locomotive performed the work it was assigned to perform. The locomotive did not fail. The locomotive did not reveal fundamental design flaws. But the locomotive never accomplished what it had been designed to accomplish, never served the purpose it had been built for, never fulfilled the role that the company had imagined for it when the company had placed the order. The locomotive that arrived too late became simply one more piece of equipment in the fleet, distinguished primarily by the circumstances of its own failure to achieve its intended purpose. The locomotive existed, operated, was maintained, and serviced like any other machine, but the meaning that the locomotive was supposed to carry, the sense that it was the solution to a specific problem, the understanding that it was a necessary replacement for an essential piece of equipment, all of that had been overtaken by events and by the practical necessity of the company to continue operating in the absence of the machine it had been waiting for. The railway company had invested money in ordering the locomotive. The company had to put the locomotive to use once it arrived, even though that use was not what had been planned. The company could not simply refuse the locomotive, could not send it back to the manufacturer, could not undo the decision that had been made years earlier when the order had been placed. The company had to integrate the locomotive into its fleet and find whatever purpose the locomotive could serve, even if that purpose was not the purpose that had motivated the order in the first place. What the story of the late-arriving locomotive reveals is something profound about the relationship between planning and reality in complex industrial systems, about how the best-laid plans can be disrupted by events that are beyond anyone's control, about how timing and circumstance can render even the most well-engineered machines meaningless, about how a machine can be perfectly well-designed and perfectly well-built and still fail to accomplish what it was designed to accomplish simply because circumstances changed while the machine was being created. The locomotive that was supposed to be the solution to a crisis became instead a machine that had to find its place in a world that had already adapted to the problem it was supposed to solve. The locomotive that was ordered to replace an essential piece of equipment became instead a machine that had to learn to exist in an organization that had already learned to function without it. The locomotive that had been built with a specific purpose found itself arriving into a situation where that specific purpose was no longer necessary. The late arriving locomotive stands as a monument to the precarious relationship between intention and outcome, between what we plan and what actually occurs, between what we design a machine to do and what the machine ends up doing in the real world when circumstances conspire to make the original plan obsolete. That is the fate of the locomotive that arrived too late.